Hello, everybody. We
Hey,
are back. It is Joey and Caitlin. We are here, formerly known as the Midwest Outcasts. I feel like we definitely have been some outcasts lately and just feel like we just deserted everybody. But we honestly deserted each other too. Like we just fell off the face of the earth.
been a hot minute, that is for
It
sure.
has.
Yes.
We were just catching up before we started, and a lot has happened in our lives professionally, I feel like. So we have just really stayed busy. So we apologize for the little hiatus, but we are back and we are excited to catch up. And what we wanted to kind of roll out as a topic today is people pleasing, right? And that can mean a lot of different things for people, but it's something that's kind of weighed on me in the last kind of couple weeks, just with my professional work and just kind of working with different clients and coworkers and stuff, and really just kind of recognizing like how hard people truly try to please everybody, including themselves, right? But it's just a very interesting kind of way of recognizing thing. And I feel like now being like a clinical social worker, I feel like I overanalyze like a lot of things myself, but I'm also overanalyzing like people.
Yeah.
So that's tough.
Yes. No, I agree. And I think it also is not just like pleasing others. I think everyone just wants to be accepted. And I think there's also like FOMO, like fear of missing out, which I I am one of those people. Like
Yes.
I have a fear of missing out. And so like when I'm not included, it does feel really crappy to be like
Yes.
left out of even like simply your coworkers eating, like getting lunch and not inviting you, like those little things.
Yes. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I think like with my travel group, I feel like every time that some people like schedule a trip and I don't go and like I make the like logical decision of like I can't financially afford this one or I don't have enough time off at work or it just is not a good time or something like that, and then I don't go and then I see everybody having so much fun. I'm like, oh man, like I could have just like YOLO, right? Like you only live once, like just go, like money will return, the memories won't, right?
Right.
Um and I feel like that happens a lot now too. Like I have some trips coming up and I feel like I probably could have said no to like one of them, right? Versus having three back to back. But also like, am I gonna get this experience back? Like, I don't know. And so it kind of does like weigh on me a little bit of like stick to your guns if you truly like can't go, like don't go. But also like I can financially like afford these and so like that makes me feel good, but also I don't have a lot of time off at work. Like, my previous job, I had unlimited PTO and I feel like I didn't abuse it, but like I was able to have that flexibility of like, hey, like I'm gonna take these days off. Like it was nice and now I don't. And so I run into issues of like, oh, I'm not gonna have enough PTO. But my work has been super supportive, like knowing like traveling is a passion of mine and essentially work. Like I do it part-time, right? And so they're okay with me doing it unpaid, but then it's again, you're out of some money. So, and we
Yeah.
know social workers don't make, the big bucks.
That is true. That even like with our masters, we don't even make as much as we should. But
No.
regardless of that, it's, being human kind, just sucks in general just because I don't like to have those feelings of
Hmm.
like jealousy or being upset
Yes.
of like not being included,
Yes.
um, or being guilty if I put a boundary up to say no to things. Like those are all valid feelings that all of us feel when we want to either please people or if we feel left out on things.
Right. Yeah. I think too, what I recognize like for myself too, like if I mean, I feel like I have a pretty solid like friend group or like a circle of friends. Um, some like have I've had like since childhood. And then some that I've like recently, met in the last like couple years. I feel like I haven't like truly made like a new adult friend like recently that I can think of. I mean, I feel like it's hard to like build friendships as adults, and that could be another topic someday. But uh you quickly kind of know like your circle of friends from childhood. You can kind of sway things a little bit differently there. Like you're used to like the communication styles that you guys have built, or you guys know each other's personalities, whatever, versus the group you would maybe have in the last 2 years, right? And I think that also plays a role in it too of like I'm struggling of trying to make everybody happy, but I'm not happy myself, right? Like I know I'm struggling. I know I can reach out to this person, but also like I don't want to upset somebody else if I don't reach out to them. Like it just goes back to all of that of you don't have to tell everybody your problems, right? Like you're gonna have a select few maybe that you reach out to, whatnot, but the fear of like over validating sometimes can come up.
Yeah. Nope, that's fair. Yeah, I think just learning to, I think the hardest thing to do, especially if you're a people pleaser, is building the boundaries and
Right.
knowing what works for you and to understand that it is not up to you to is it's not on you of how that person reacts or how that person feels about your reaction or your boundary that you set. You are in no way responsible for that person's feelings.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. And I think one thing that I like really like to think about too, personally, but also professionally too, to share with clients is like controlling the controllables, right? Like knowing and understanding like what you can control is all that you can control, right? Like there's so many things you can control, and there's lots of things that you can't control, and have to like know the differences of that. Like you can't control people that don't invite you to certain things, and you may never know why, right? I mean, even if you ask and ask and ask, like, hey, like, why wasn't I included? I mean, is it like pointless to ask, or like what is the point of asking, right? Um, is it gonna hurt you more if you do ask and you don't get the answer you're looking for, right? So really just controlling what you feel like you could control, right? And just knowing like your group of friends matter, right? And recognizing that.
Yes. I agree. I'm currently reading The Four Agreements.
Mm.
Um, and it goes over about like how to basically not care what others think of you and be able to live your life to the fullest. Like one of the agreements is to be mindful of your word and be mindful of what you say. Another one is learning, like basically saying, don't care about others.
Hmm.
Not others. I mean, just don't care what other people think or what they're doing. Just worry about what you're doing.
Right.
Um, and another one is to do your best. Because if you're doing your best, then everything else doesn't matter. Because if you're just knowing that you're doing the best that you can with what you have, then you ultimately don't care about what others are doing. And you're more mindful of what, like with your words.
Hmm. I love that. I love that. I think the validation piece too, I think can come from many different things too. But I think for me, like now as an adult, right? Like I understand validation more than I did like as a child, and partially probably because, in school we obviously we learn about that, and obviously it's part of our career now of providing the clinical expertise that we, I guess try to offer, right? But like validating, we want to validate people's feelings, like, with our clients and stuff like that. But I think for me, having a larger group of coworkers now than what I feel like I've ever had, right? I guess besides working retail in college, but that doesn't, I don't think that counts, right? But now, like, I mean, I have a big group of colleagues now, and honestly, like I'm the only male too. And so I think that also plays a role in it too. I think that I feel like a lot of people come to me partially because, I'm the social worker, and the social worker is the healer, right? The person that's gonna to fix everything, right? Like I would love to be able to fix everything, like myself included, right?
Right.
But it's super tough though when you have a big group of coworkers, right? And all older than me as well, right? I think there's maybe a few of them that are, I guess, younger, but most of them are older than me as well. I mean, it's hard to engage in conversation with that of offering them advice and then, or offering them suggestions to try professionally, right? Like I don't ever get into the personal stuff with them, but and then there's just no like there's no effort to like to try it out, right? It's like what's the point of that, right? And so looking for the validation and then somewhat getting it from me, as a solid coworker, I feel, but then not utilizing it, I think can be tough to see, right? And then not wanting to put in the effort, again, right? And so that's where it comes to me of like people pleasing of like how far are you willing to go with somebody to help them if you're not seeing efforts being shown, right? Like what's the point?
Right. Yeah. No, I get that. And that's what I also, because like I said, I am one that I will admit I have FOMO.
Mhm.
So it's tough like being at work and you've seen people have the lunches together and whatnot. Um, but I have to like just kind of sit back and be like, it's okay, Caitlin. Like they're not
Yes.
doing it, being like deliberately
Yes.
leaving me out.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I have to mentally just talk myself off that cliff, basically, of it's okay, Caitlin. Like they didn't do it deliberately. It'll be fine. They're not out to get me. They don't hate me.
Yes. Oh yeah. And I get that way sometimes as well. Like um and then I look back of like I've also been super busy and I haven't reached out. Like maybe that person didn't feel like I was gonna be around to hang out, right? Or attend or whatever. But then there's times where I'll try to reach out and schedule a time to catch up. And then it's like, oh, like I had this going on, right? I have this going on, and then you see like on their social media that they're just sitting at home. It's just like, you know, it is tough. And so I quickly kind of recognize like I'm not getting any younger, right? I'm getting older, right? I'm in my 30s, right? And thriving, right? That's what they say. And there's just it's just not necessary to like have the cattiness, right? Or whatever you want
Right.
to call it of um, you know, not being included, like it sucks, right? Of like you analyze like, did I do something wrong? Like why wasn't I included? Like did I say something wrong? Like you go through all of those negative, patterns that our mind quickly goes to a lot of the time, but
Yeah.
really it's most likely none of that. But it is tough. It is tough. And so that's where like your circle of friends come into play of like these are your group of people that will include you when you're allowed to be included or whatever, however you want to put it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I do agree with that. It's just because you have like your work friends and then you have your circle
Yes.
friends and
Yeah.
the group that of friends that are outside of work, the circle group that you have the close one, you know that they will always be there for you and you never, at least for me, the friends I have that are near and dear to my heart, we I know that they'll be there for me and I don't need to talk to them every day to know that. But then you have like the coworkers at work where you spend a lot of your time with. And I, it's just kind of figuring out, navigating in a sense of um the people that you work with don't necessarily have to be your friend. how
Mm,
so you have to like navigate of who's someone that you connect with in a
right.
sense and who you don't connect with. And that's tough. And especially I feel like as adults it's just tough.
Yeah. Right,
Oh,
right. How do you navigate that like with your work and your friend group that you mentioned? Like what is a way that you navigate that that works for you?
that's a good question. I often at work, I because it's just weird because like I'm in a age where a lot of people that I work with, they're close in age, but they're still younger than me.
Hmm.
Um, so we have like that pool of people, and then we have the people that have kids, and then the older people. I don't have kids. It's just me and my husband right now. And this group, the younger group, like to hang out like outside of work as well as together. And I feel like I should be more with them because I don't have any kids, but I'm not.
Hmm.
So for me, I'm just in like, I told one of my coworkers this. I'm like, I'm just in an awkward age where I should be having kids, where I wouldn't worry about so much of the other stuff.
Yes.
So like I said before, what I have to do, I have to like mentally talk myself off the edge. Like I have to keep in mind that those people aren't thinking of how to get back at me or how to make me feel a certain way or just they're not being mean in any way or conniving at all. So I have to like keep in mind it's not about me at all. It's just that we're in different like seasons of life.
Right.
And I have to like just tell myself like just because like we work together doesn't mean we have to be really good friends. It's fine, like the relationship that I have, it's fine.
Hmm.
It's good. So it's just it is tough, but I just have to like mentally be like, Caitlin, you're fine. And then put music on so I don't hear them talk because that helps me kind of like drain it out and just
Yeah.
get back to work. Otherwise, I'm like listening to their conversations while like working, which is not healthy whatsoever.
No. No, those are good points. I feel like I'm kind of in the same way. Like I feel like I like the few coworkers that I have that are younger than me are married, have kids, right? And so and I mean we're friends, like, but we don't talk a whole lot like outside of work. Um, but I have like some of the fr or coworkers I work with, like we do like talk outside of work, and like I feel like we're really good friends. Like we will have lunch sometimes during the week, like when we're not in the office. If we're out doing visits and like we're all gonna be in the same area, like we'll grab lunch, just to check in. And I like to check in with them too. Like I don't know, that's just the social worker in me, but like just checking in to see how things are going. But there's a few of the nurses that like just like don't like do a lot of the same like routine, right? And that's okay because I feel like everybody has their own routine of doing things, right? But sometimes it makes it hard to want to connect with them if they're doing a routine that you're like, this is a little bit different. Like it works for you, but like I'm not used to something like this. It makes it hard for you to want to like intervene and offer suggestions, right? Especially if they're, doing their own thing. So I do have a hard time. I feel like I've always had a hard time like hanging out with coworkers outside of work. I've had like gone out to supper with a couple of the coworkers before. It's been super fun, right? It's just nice to kind of see a different side of them, but like I mean,
Yeah.
still the same, right? Um, same personality and whatnot. But also, this is the first time I've really hung out with coworkers outside of work. Like my last job I had with the hospital in a different department. Like we've done a couple, like we went axe throwing for like Christmas one year. We went to like a murder mystery dinner together once. Super fun, right? We've done like Secret Santas around the holidays, stuff like that. But like my job before that, before the hospital, like I hardly ever hung out with people outside of work. Like because our relationships were a little like rocky, like professionally. Like I didn't even know like how it was gonna be like, outside of work. And so many coworkers like, oh, like so and so is like so much fun like outside of work. And I'm like, I don't even want to witness it. Like I'm fine. Like I'm fine with that. Like, it's just really hard. Like if you don't get along like professionally, like are you gonna get along personally? Like I don't know. I feel like I'm pretty similar like professionally than I am personally. Like same personality. I try to be very outgoing, bubbly. And the more like we get to know each other, like it's easier to like recognize that, I guess, but it makes it super tough. Like you quickly kind of know like the group of coworkers you can connect with, the group that, maybe like you're cordial with, but like you don't want to offer too much support with. It is tough. And I think it is tough when they're older than you too. Like I consider myself a very old soul. Like I think probably, and maybe it's because I work with a lot of older people too, but I've always just been told I've been an old soul as well and just connect well with people older than me. And I think like I've just tried so hard over the years and I've gotten burned a couple times and I'm like, what's the point? Like I'm just gonna go in, do my thing, and you can like me or you don't have to like me. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
so it is. It makes it super tough. But it is interesting to see like how the relationships change, with different coworkers. And then you have a bigger group versus a smaller group, right? Like, you know, I had a really small team of three people, and now I have like, I don't know, 20 some maybe. Like it's a big change. And I don't see all of them every day, right? I see probably like three or four of them every day. Like those that are in the office, right? Like our office gals. But and then some of the nurses, like I only see like once a week, and that's cool, like that's fine. Some of them I see more, I'll talk with more, but I mean, there's no like ill will to the others. It's just I just connect well, or I'm working with their patients more, like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
no, for sure. There's like at work, there's some psychologists that I'd prefer to work with over others.
Yes.
That's same with the medication providers. So, but I mean, regardless, I still work with the other professions. Like, even
Yeah.
if my favorite isn't on the team, because I still have to work with that person,
Like
which
yeah, you can't just ignore them.
right. And I feel like professionally, I'm able to navigate those relationships pretty decent for the most part. The ones that I don't get along with as easily and stuff like that comparatively. And I think it helps the ones that you don't get along with. I think it helps to react professionally because to, to me it doesn't affect me because I don't have a connection, if
Yes.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good point. Like I feel like I have a good group of like providers that I work really well with that if I have questions, I'll go to them first. Um, and I don't work with a lot of like psychiatrists anymore just because I'm not in like the private practice realm as much anymore. But I know like the one psychiatrist I worked with, like we had a referral for home health and this patient had came from his program. And so I like had his number. So I texted him. I said, "Hey, like this is Joey from so and so, and I am calling, regarding, this client, and or I'm, could you call me?" And he called me like right away and was like, "Oh, like, hey, how's it going? Like, good to hear from you." Like, and that feels good, like knowing it's been like almost a year and you can still like have that connection, um, which is nice, especially like with a psychiatrist who can do a lot of good work in this field, right? Again, with the nurses I work with, like I work really well with a couple of them out of the group, but like it doesn't mean like I don't want to work with some of the others. Like I just work better with some of them, right? And I I see a lot more of their patients, but I still will check in with the others too and just see how things are going, right? If they have questions. But it does make it tough, but like you just develop relationships with certain people and that's
That's
how
okay.
and that is
That's
okay, right?
okay.
Yeah, and you have to like understand that, but like it's hard like when other people don't. Like, you
Yeah.
don't want to like make people feel bad. And like I'm one that doesn't make people feel bad, but also like I'm sorry, like our personality doesn't connect well, like, and like so far I haven't had a big issue with coworkers, and I'm grateful for that. Like I don't know what it would be like if like a coworker and I like don't get along and it's like super hard to work with. Like I think that would be difficult, right?
Yeah. Yes, it would be because like I kind of said, like you're with them,
Uh-huh.
every day,
Yes.
8 hours a day, basically. So it's tough because you have to try to adapt in a way that works best for both of you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
try not to do it where it compromises your peace because you're trying to appease everyone.
Mm. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and I think that's one thing where like we typically are all together like one day a week for our like IDT meetings, and then we kind of are just like I'm in the office more just because like centrally located, and I'll do some office work before I go out and do visits and whatnot. And so some of the nurses will pop in throughout the week, or I'll just connect with them as I'm in their area. Like, hey, I kind of be in your area today. If you need anything, let me know. Like, I could bring something from the office, whatnot. And then sometimes I just don't communicate with some of them until the next week, and that's okay, right? But it does make it hard when there's a bigger group of people and some that you don't see very often, and you see him again and it's like, oh wow, like I haven't seen you for a while, like how are things going, right? And you like want to be cordial. I don't know, it's
Yeah.
tough. Like you want to make sure everybody's feelings are validated and do the best that you can to connect with people, but it's important to know like you don't have to connect with people like either. Like be cordial, you're at work, be professional, but like you're not there to make friends like you mentioned. Like you're there to do great work for your agency, for your patients, for your community, whatever you're doing. Like we're not there to make best friends and, do
Yes.
that.
So do you so it's kind of talking about like people pleasing. Do
Yes.
you have a harder time with people pleasing in the workplace or people pleasing in your personal life?
Great question. I feel like probably more so my personal life. I feel like I make myself be busy because I don't want to like feel feel like I have to say no to certain things. Like I'm not like a huge drinker. Like I socially will drink. Like if someone wants to like go to a local winery for lunch, like I'll go, right? Or if someone wants to go have dinner at like the local bar, like I'll go and I'll probably have a drink. But if someone like will text me or call me at like 9 p.m., hey, like we're at the bar, like having drinks, you want to come? Probably not going to. Like again, I'm an old soul, like I like to be in bed, right? And so sometimes I'll still have some friends that like will still go out late and like will call and text me and like want to go out. And I'm like, no, like even if they'll like pre-plan it, right? And so I think my way people pleasing is like just staying super busy. So then I'm like, oh, like nope, I already have plans. Or sometimes I'll say I have plans and I don't have a lot going on. Um, which is tough, Like I don't like lie like deliberately or like make a huge like deal, but I'm like, nope, I already have plans. Sometimes I do, like I have plans just to sit at home and relax. And I don't think I'm necessarily lying. It's just I have plans with myself to not do anything. Like I've been super busy. Um, but again, like my circle of friends that I talked about that I'm super close with, they do know how busy I am, like between like the millions of jobs I have, going on right now, and then some of the trips I have coming up. Like I am single, I don't have kids, like I don't have a lot of personal responsibilities at home, or like I have the flexibility to do that now, knowing that in the future I do want to like get married, have kids, like have a family of my own, knowing I'm not gonna have this flexibility as much. Like I'm gonna be like, oh yeah, like I'm just gonna hop on a plane to go to Disney this weekend, you know? Like I might not have that flexibility. So, yeah. So I feel like personal life is probably a little bit more tough than professionally. I think professionally, like I can control a little bit more. Like I will try to flex my schedule a little bit to make sure I can accommodate everybody that needs my assistance or whatnot. But personally, yeah, like it is tough, or seeing people that are, that you maybe have reached out like, hey, like we should get like supper sometime and catch up and like, oh no, like I'm pretty busy with whatever, and then you see them like out with other people and it's like you said didn't have anything going on, like so you quickly kind of recognize that. And so I have, like pushed myself away from certain people in the past like couple years just because I'm like their priorities are different than where mine are at. And those close to me know that I haven't been a big drinker like all of my life. Like I didn't party in high school, really none in college. I think I honestly really have maybe like been like I guess we can say drunk like maybe t 2 or 3 times in my life, and I'm 31. Like it's just not fun. Like who wants to get so drunk that you wake up and you're miserable the next day? Like it doesn't sound fun, right? And so like when I do go out with friends, like I know my limits, right? And if I feel like I'm getting drinking a little bit, like I will stop myself. And I'm glad that I'm able to do that. And it did probably discredits like the history of alcoholism in my family that I've seen it at a young age. And I think that kind of credits to my people pleasing is I've had to grow up really quick, and just recognize like my family needs me now as like, 12, 13. I've recognized like you need to really step up, right? And I saw this from a therapist friend that put this on Facebook today, and it said, maybe you overthink so much because you didn't grow up in a safe environment. You took on adult duties way too early in life. You get hurt no matter how hard you try. You were harshly judged for making mistakes. You had to figure out everything on your own. You were made to feel you weren't good enough, right? Like so many things can come up where like you do overthink about so many things where like really like think about yourself, right? Put yourself first. Like what does Joey need, right? What does Joey need to do today? I don't necessarily care like what Caitlin wants to do today, right? Like I hope you're doing good things today, right? But like, what am I doing good or for today that's gonna be, you know, meaningful to me, right? Before you check in on other people too, making sure you're okay. And I've had so much like a lot of difficulty like doing that. Like I've always just, I think that's what led me to social work, right? Is like I've always been someone that wants to help people, but like doesn't really care to help himself as much. I mean, I'm doing better now because I've been in therapy, right? Um, but I've also like just learned like through schooling and working with clients, like you got to take care of yourself too. Like you're important.
Yes. Yes. I think experiencing burnout
Yes.
is I don't ever wish it upon people, but it's you almost need to experience burnout to understand self-care is important.
Yes.
Because if you're not doing good, how can you help others or do your job or take care of your family to the best of your ability if you're burnt out?
Yeah, that is fair. Like I feel like my last job I got burnt out in a way where like I wasn't busy enough. Like it was like I made myself busy by doing other tasks, right, and other duties for the hospital, but I felt like I just wasn't busy enough or like it just was not enjoyable. Like I wanted to just do more, right? So then when this position came open, in a different department, with home health and hospice and having the experience, I'm like, this will be busier, right? Maybe too busy for you right away. And it was like I was like, holy crap, like this may be a little too much, right? But I've also like now learned like give yourself that grace, right? Like you are doing great work for your communities, right? And the surrounding communities, like just don't spread yourself too thin, right? Only schedule so many visits per day that you need to do, right? Um, and then with covering a different department for the last 8 weeks, like I've just kind of told myself like this is how many hours that you can truly dedicate that you're gonna be okay doing, like not doing can't do 40 hours there and 40, like this is what you can do,
Yeah.
right? And I think it's really helped like just knowing like I would have been able to do that last year, 2 years ago, but now in the mindset and the way where my mental health is at now, I feel like I'm able to do that. And I mean I credit that to therapy, but also like just my own work, right? Like working through your own battles of understanding like you're doing great work, but like you gotta do great work on yourself too. And burnout is so real. Like people don't
Yeah.
recognize it. Like you might not even know it's burnout because you don't know what it is. But like if you feel like you're just not not doing, your normal routines, or you feel like you don't want to go to work, you're not completing your tasks at work, right? You're just not yourself. Like that could be some burnout going on. Like just learn your limits, right? And it's okay to put those boundaries in place of like this is all I can give, right? And I kind of want to end a little bit on, I don't know if you like follow Brene Brown at all.
I don't, but I know her though.
Mhm. And she was like the first like kind of like mental health kind of guru that I've kind of got into a little bit, but like I've watched some of her podcasts and some of her like documentaries, and one thing that she talks about is like her and her spouse kind of talk about like where they're at for the day. Like I'm not at 100%, right? I'm at like 80%. So I can give you like 80% today. And then the other partner will be like, all right, like I will have my 100%, but I'll take on your 20% too, and I'll help out. Right? Like recognizing that I think is really special because it's like you might not be at 100% today. Like whether you didn't sleep good last night or you have a really busy day today at work and you're gonna come home and you're not 100%. Like I'm at this percentage, like can you take the other half, right? And there was one instance where she's like, her spouse was maybe at like 60%. And she's like, oh man, like I'm at like 40% today. So what are we gonna do to help each other out? Right? Like, and I'll have to find it and share it with you. But like super, like it put it into perspective for me of like, well, first off, like I'm by myself, right? So if I'm at 60%, who's gonna take the other 40%? Like who can I call, right? But knowing that it's okay if you're not at 100%, right? If you're at 60% for the day, like knowing, all right, you're at 60% for the day, like you're not at 100, so what are you going to do to maybe find that other 40%, right? Or what are you going to do to be successful at 60%, right?
Yeah. It kind of reminds me that our best looks different every day.
Yeah.
And our best can look different at every hour too. So like you don't have your 100% one day is going to look different, like 100% the next day it's going to look different. We just we can't compare ourselves from the day before.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's super super helpful. So that is our check-in for you guys. I feel like we really just got into it of just knowing that people pleasing is appropriate in certain situations, but like knowing like you got to take care of yourself first, right? What can you do to take care of yourself, right? Before taking care of others, right? Like you got to make sure you're good.
Yes. Nope, I agree. We have to prioritize ourselves and we have to make sure that we we are pleased
Yes.
with ourselves before we can please other people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, we will be back soon with another hot topic, we'll call it. Anytime you guys have any topics you want to hear from us, shoot us a message on Facebook. That's probably the best way to get a hold of us. We're happy to check in anytime. So hope all is well and you have a great holiday season too. We're getting into the holidays already. So
It's crazy.
it
It's not
is.
so good, but so.
I know it is. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.